So what's going on, man?
I am working on some notes for Kelly and Co. for tomorrow. We're going to talk about wearables, which you and I are going to talk about a wearable today at some point. Had a pretty good day for digital bites and unmute stuff this week. Sent out a newsletter. Been using GPT for that, so we can talk about that. But I think you wanted to talk about a few things before we jumped into some of the other randomness.
Yeah, so we're gonna start off with the story of me going from doing what I would say maybe three jobs, for sure two jobs, fairly well. I think Mike may agree. I was handling Bedrock Innovations and my job at AT Guys fairly competently, at least. To me, doing about three or four jobs very, very, very poorly. Uh, and how did that come about? And more importantly, what am I going to do about it? Because
Yeah.
that's the important thing, right? The resolution of the whole deal. So this is going to be me pulling back the curtain to some stuff a little bit. I'm going to foreshorten this, so we may revisit this at some point in the future. Definitely will be keeping people updated as I move forward. But in the sake of this not being a 3 hour long show, we'll shorten some of this. And a lot of it people have heard, so you can go back and listen to previous episodes to hear about my primary complaints and struggles going through 6 months of BEP training. But the crux of the problem, and before I get into any sort of details and explanations of how some things happen the way they happen or why things are, from my perspective, screwed up in the ways that they are, let me first and foremost say that I personally take responsibility for everything. And the reason I say that is because there's going to be some situations where I want to point out where external factors, whether that be people, circumstances, information, etc., have negatively impacted me. But at the end of the day, I'm not laying blame on any of those situations. They're just factual things that have had an impact. So first things first, where are we? Well, I got two businesses that are currently registered. We got Spirals LLC. That's the vending company that will eventually turn into something bigger, but mostly around retail-ish type services. And then there's Bedrock Innovations. It's my favorite company because it's the first one I ever registered. And I registered it on my sister's birthday in 21. So, and that is my consulting slash IT business. Now, I did intelligently step away from quite a bit of my IT work before going to Gentry to do the training. I was smart enough to do that. I was also smart enough during that process, as things were not going as well as I thought they would go time wise, to further reduce the amount of reliance upon me directly that certain people had, or to at least properly set expectations. I did my best to do that. I maybe slipped up or stumbled in a couple of places, to be honest, but for the most part, I think I reset people's expectations as my expectations were reset. Coming out of that, I think I picked up a little speed on resolving some lingering issues with the business, discovering a couple of things that needed to be refined. Also discovering that I really slipped up and let some of my infrastructure just fall through the cracks and didn't realize it was broken because other pieces of the infrastructure also fell through the cracks, such as notifications that, hey, this server is down. So
Mm.
yeah, there's that whole part. Remember I told you about that? Like I had this notification system with this kind of ping bot
Yep.
solution or pingdom, and yeah, it kind of stopped working. But in that sort of scenario, it's not like a constant, every day telling me, hey, everything's great. Is no, you're going to notify me when something's wrong. Where if I get no notifications, I don't know anything's wrong, right? Unless the notifications don't work.
Yeah.
But then I got the route. And again, not laying blame anywhere. There was some, I'm not going to say misdirection. There were some inadequacies or some lack of information that was handled. But let's start with the me getting the route, because it's really when things kind of started to go really sideways for me. Part of this is on my part, poor preparation. Just plain and simple, very poor preparation. Some of which I could have done something about if I would have been thinking better about it. Some of it was just going to hit me sideways regardless of what I did. because you talk to people, and I did a lot of talking to people in class, prior to going to the class, after getting out of the class. And there are things people don't think about to tell you when they're 20 years, 15 years into doing a thing that you're just now getting into. They're not going to think about it, or they didn't have to think about it. It's another aspect of circumstances. One thing that I was poorly prepared for was hiring employees, because I had a team or a small group of people that had previously volunteered. Like, while I was still in class, they still were willing and ready to help any way they could. And to a certain extent, those people showed up to help when as they said they would. The thing that I wasn't prepared for in that specific situation is I wasn't aware of certain deficiencies with some people. And I say deficiencies in the sense of there were things that made them not the right person to fulfill the role that I needed fulfilled. Right. There were aspects of things they couldn't do. So, to put it in a different way, because I'm trying not to release anybody's information, so I'll put it a different way. It's like you hire me to do plumbing. I'm not a plumber. I don't know anything about plumbing. So I'm going to be a terrible person to hire as a plumber.
Yep.
Right. There are certain skills. I can probably come in and turn your water off, but that's about all you want me to do. There are certain skills that I do not have that would not make me be the best person to hire to fix your sink. So there's that type of thing, right? And this could have been resolved. The reason I take responsibility for this is because had I asked better questions, and I thought I had been sharing information, but again, this is a slight on me, because I was guilty of what has been called looking in the mirror. I use that phrase. I got it from somewhere. I really honestly don't remember the right person to attribute it to. But guilty of looking in the mirror. If I'm talking to Mike and Mike's telling me he's working on a project and this is his plan and he's going to get there, and at this point he's going to need my help, and I say, sure, I am mostly keeping track of the things that Mike is telling me. And if Mike mentions the thing that he needs in the process for this future project that is coming some months down the road, then I'm like, oh, either I don't know what that means or I don't know how to do that. I'm going to address that right then when Mike is telling me about it. So as I was going through class, I was in constant, conversations with people about, oh, this is, what I learned. So this is the thing that I'm going to need to do here. And when this situation comes up, I'm going to need this done. Right. So I'm sharing this information, assuming that people are taking it in first and foremost. And that since there's no pushback or questions being asked, that, okay, you're cool. Okay. We still cool. It's like Mike telling me, so, I just figured out that in this project, I'm going to have to get you to bungee jump off of a building. And I don't say anything to Mike about having to bungee jump off of a building at some point in this process too much down the road. Mike's going to assume I'm okay with bungee jumping off the building. Right? Okay. So I'm not a fool for thinking this way, but I should have thought better. I should have asked questions. I should have, clarified, and I should have done this after the class was over just to kind of do a review with people, but I didn't do that. So got out there in the beginning already several steps off. I'm not going to say behind, several steps off of where I should have been, because there were things that should have been handled in a very specific way when I took over this route that were not handled in that way. And that literally cost me money. Like, it ended up costing me money, and it ended up costing me time. But most importantly, it cost me money, which set me back a little bit. Another thing I wasn't prepared for is the fact that, well, one thing that I should have thought about this, and I may have mentioned this on the show before, but one thing I should have thought about, because I experienced this in class. We ended up with 3 people in my class, me and 2 other students. So the number of machines that we were responsible for, we rotated every 6 weeks. Every time I rotated to a new set of machines, the performance of those machines increased. And it wasn't immediately, but the performance of those machines increased noticeably over the time that I was operating them. My reasoning for that is not that anybody else is worse, because everybody pretty much kind of, managed what they managed. But I have the ability, or I pay attention very much to what sells and what doesn't sell. And oftentimes, without keeping a document or a spreadsheet or anything like that. It's just, look, I've been back to this machine twice and I noticed that I really don't ever have to refill these plain lays. But these hot fries and these jalapeno cheese curls, they're always empty. So guess what that tells me in my brain? Take out the freaking plain chips, put in
Mhm.
another roll of hot fries. Or something, right? That's the only reason the performance of my machines would actually increase, because I would make those sort of decisions within the class, which my expectation, this is what I'm supposed to do. Because this is what I would do in my business. I should treat this like it is my business. So that's what I did. This is what I do now. I didn't factor that in when I started the route. So things that I was told, like, oh, this location, you probably, if you fill them up, like if you go and you fill up their snack machine, fill up their drink machine, they're going to be, about every 2 weeks, come check on them every 2 weeks and restock, right? They shouldn't be empty though, right? They're going to be okay. No, 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 no. Because one, I started changing everything. I didn't change everything, but I started changing stuff that was in there. Some of it because I literally didn't know where to get that crap from, but some of it because I'm like, nobody's buying this crap. Like, it's just
Mhm.
sitting there.
You're
So
you're observing that. You're like, I'm paying attention to what's going on here.
yeah, so this stuff isn't selling, so I'm going to put this in. I'm going to put this in, and people like these, so let's try that. Oh, this place sells this. Okay, let me get that. That can go in the machine. All right. And let me fill out, so I'll start to learn what people in these different locations like to buy, so I can better serve them as customers. Oh my God. Now I'm supposed to be everywhere every week. There's no 2 week rotation, except with a couple of places. And it's just because they're busy enough at certain times of the month, but they're not consistently everyday trafficked, right? And it makes sense to me why those places wouldn't be, running out of crap every week. But for some of these places, it's like, geez, I literally had a lady tell me, you may want to think about coming every week. I said, yeah, you might be right about that. I was like, but what happened before I was here? Well, I mean, we would buy stuff, but you're putting good stuff in there. So I was like, okay, all right. I mean, I don't really know how not to do that, right? I can put crap in here you're not going to buy, but that's really throwing away money. So let's not do that. That kind of knocked me off a little bit. And honestly, that didn't really knock me off. It would have done what it initially did to me, which is, oh, that means I really need to sit down and restructure my route, my plans for filling machines. Cause I cannot say, oh, I'll hit this spot on, let's say, September 3rd, and then I won't have to come back and see them again until the 17th, right? I can't do that. No, I got to go back on the 10th. No big deal. Here's where it's going to sound like to some people I am laying blame at the feet of somebody else, but I'm really not. I'm just giving you the actual facts of the external things that have happened. When you hire a person and you tell this person, I need you to be here at 7 o'clock because I want to be rolling by 7:30, 8 o'clock. I need to get out of here. Got to be on the road. You're calling them at the time that they should be there. You don't get in touch with them until the time that you're supposed to be leaving. So by the time they get there, you're already 2 hours behind your
Mhm.
schedule. Well, what that does is that shoves a lot of stuff off your plate for that day, because you can only get so many places in a day, and these places close, right? A lot of my locations are actual uh businesses. Like,
Yeah, so you're
so
working around their hours.
right. I don't have the ability to go in there at 8 o'clock at night and stock their machine. So it looks like there's, snack elves that just show up and their machines stay full. I would love if that was the case, honestly, but that's not. So there's that factor that happens. So I can hear the thoughts already. Well, fire that person. Well, here's the thing. First and foremost, this has not just been a problem with one individual. This has actually been a problem with like 3 or 4 different people. Of just showing up late. So to me, I take blame for that because it's poor hiring practice of some sort. And I haven't figured out exactly what I'm doing wrong about that. The other thing is, if you only got one person that's even barely showing up, barely getting it done is better than not getting anything done.
Mhm.
Uh, so you can't fire a person. Don't do that thing where you cut off your nose to spite your face, right? Like, yeah, I could fire you, but then I have no way to get anywhere. So there's that aspect of it. I look at this from my perspective as poor hiring. Um, implementation. Some of it is people just being lazy, true enough. But some of it is like, okay, what am I not doing as a manager? And to be honest with you, managing people in this sort of scenario is a thing that I am not used to. Mike knows enough about me to know that most of my professional career doing anything where I have been a business owner or a freelancer has been involved with other people who are business owners and freelancers.
Mhm.
So if I hire you to do web design or front end design of a website, we have a discussion about what's needed. Can you accomplish it? Here's the deadline that we're working up against. How does that look? Okay, you can do it. Cool. And then we do the check-ins every so often to make sure everything's going smooth. You got questions, I'm always here for you to reach out similarly with me. And we run things by the client. Everything's cool. Okay, we're done. Everybody get paid and you go on your way, I'll go on mine. I don't have to micromanage you. I don't have to teach you how to do your job because you're hired as a contractor because you know your business. I have had to learn how to train individuals to do things that I didn't. Now, that's the thing I didn't think about. And I really think that's somewhat short-sighted on my part. Could have been emphasized maybe a little bit more, but somewhat short-sighted on my part. Because I thought, and apparently I say that not because I didn't think I had to teach anybody anything, but because my style of teaching apparently was not working. Again, I'm going to say I was guilty of looking in the mirror. You show me how to do a thing, and once I say I got it, that means I actually got it. And if I got any questions, I'm going to ask you. And if you tell me, hey, you got any questions about anything, let me know. Here's, what you really absolutely should not do ever. Don't do this thing. Like, don't push that red button over there ever. Okay. Think you would get this. Like, I would get this. A couple of things I've told people not to do. And again, this, and factor in like when I have to go back and manually review everything that somebody has done before I close up a machine. That again is costing me time, right? That's time that I'm not moving on to the next location. But when I have left without doing such things, problems occur. Somebody was in there and they set a price wrong. Why are crackers in here $9.75? Right? Like that looks bad on me as the person that's responsible for the machine, but literally there was a pack of crackers in the machine that was $9.75. Why? Right? Like, how do you even make that mistake? But nevertheless, like if I would have checked everything, but if me having to go through it manually, make sure. So I implemented a rule. Nobody change any prices. You don't touch the prices. All right. If I don't walk you through what prices to change, don't touch nothing.
Nothing. Yep.
But it still takes time. Now, when I have trusted people's, yep, I know what I'm doing. I got it, et cetera, so on and so forth. Come back to a machine next week and open it up, and there's a whole pile of Doritos just bunched up on a spiral. Why? Because you tried to stuff a bag of chips that did not fit somewhere that it should not have gone. It's one of those situations where you either find something else to put there or you tell me, hey, you brought this stuff in, but this doesn't fit where you said it should go.
Mhm.
So what do I do? Then I'll come over there and be like, are you sure it doesn't fit? And I'll try. I'm like, nope, you know what? It don't fit. So let's take that from that right there, put that there, do that, blah, blah. Right?
Yeah,
But you
because you
don't
can
say
do the
anything.
troubleshooting because you know where you should be the one who knows where everything is. And
Yeah. Or I can figure out like, okay, well, because sometimes you get to a machine, like certain machines, like the spirals that the chips or whatever will sit into, like some of them are narrower than others. And you can get to one where this, particular spot in this machine is just narrower than most other machines are, right? So then you have to adjust for that. It happens. I've had to do it myself. Like I'm actually the one filling the machine. It's like, oh, I had this planned out to go on that row in that spiral that doesn't fit there. So let me figure that out. But if you don't say nothing, I don't know. But what you have done is you have, first off, you've lost customers' money because they've tried to buy a bag of chips and they didn't get it. And obviously more than one person tried to buy those same kind of chips and didn't get their chips. So they just lost their money. So I got to replace their money. If they report it to me, leave a note on the machine, etc., I got to give their money back, which is problematic. Furthermore, you have, to a certain extent, kind of damaged the rapport that I'm trying to build with the customers that, hey, you come to this machine, you're going to get what you see that you're trying to buy. If you see it, you can buy it. You might not like the price, can't do nothing about that, but you can see it, you can buy it. That creates problems, right? But ultimately, again, at the end of the day, I'm the one that's responsible for that. But if I have to manually go through and check every single thing you did in here, like that's time that I'm not moving on to the next location. That ties into the same thing. Oh, I tell you, the night before when we wrap up, hey, I need you to be here at 6:30 tomorrow, and you show up at 8. All right, you kind of screwed up stuff.
Right.
So there's that aspect of it. Now, what all of this negatively impacts with the vending business pushing stuff back is that means that's less time that I have to work on other stuff, right? So other stuff starts to slide and gets deferred and gets pushed off this way or gets pushed off that way, or in some cases gets shoved on the mic, which I don't like at all. The major problem for me that I've been struggling with, honestly, is the fact that somebody else, and I really don't like this, and I think Mike, I think we had this conversation at some point before I actually got out of the program. I was like, or shortly after I started operating as Route One, I was like, I really don't think intellectually I knew I had to depend on somebody else because somebody has to drive the vehicle, somebody has to be able to read things that need reading, etc. But I don't think I really, even though intellectually, yes, I know that this is a fact. It's like, you tell me it is, negative 10 degrees outside. Like intellectually, I know that that's cold. But because I don't live in those environments, I'm not really going to realize how cold that is until I get out there. And it's like, oh crap, this is really freaking cold. Like this is your
Right.
toes will fall off and within 10 seconds cold. Like I got to get out of here. I'm going to the equator. So it's sort of like that kind of thing where
Mhm.
somebody tells you something and intellectually you understand what they're saying, but until it like really smacks you in the face, you're like, I didn't realize it was this deep. Like I didn't realize how somebody else not doing what they're supposed to do or what they're paid to do or expected to do or have agreed to do, more importantly, can really slide off my entire business. Like I
Mhm.
could literally sit here and lose locations, not because I'm not trying to do my job, not because I'm not prepared to deal with it, but simply because a person didn't show up to drive a freaking vehicle. Because at that point, what do? I can't even pay an Uber to ride around. Man, that's
Right.
prohibitively expensive. Not to mention, I don't have enough space even in Uber XL to load up the amount of crap I have to take some places.
So, do you use Uber at all in your area?
I don't because it's not anything that would benefit me business wise. I mean, if I had to get from one place to another to have a meeting, yes, but to move product around, no, it doesn't make any sense. And I really don't use Uber all that much in this area anyway because it is really expensive, dude. Like it is way more expensive for this little, and I say little town in the sense of comparing this to like an Atlanta or
Mm.
Birmingham or a New York or Houston, right? It is ridiculously expensive. It cost me $20 to get from the downtown Houston, whatever that hotel was that we were at for the 2023 NFB convention, uh, to get out to the airport, to get out to Love Field. So it wasn't even the big airport in Houston. It was the little airport way on the edge of Houston,
Mhm.
right? Like 21, $22, right? It was definitely under $25 to get from the hotel to the airport. Same thing coming in, less than $25 to get from the airport to the hotel. It would literally cost me about $15 to get from here to the Sam's Club from my house where I'm living right now. And that is within 5 miles, dude. It's probably actually within 3 miles if I were to look it up, but I know it's within 5 miles, right? It's crazy. When we
Is it
stayed on
because
the
of demand, do you think? Or
I think it may be because of lack of demand,
mm,
potentially. I feel like there's a couple of combinations of things that are happening here. So I feel like one, there's not a ton of Uber drivers on the road here because it's a smaller place, but I feel like because it's a smaller town, smaller city, I guess would be fair to put it, but because it's a smaller place, there's less people using Ubers, so their
mhm.
prices are a little higher. You factor that in with the fact that also we're in a college town though, and it's a big college where the University of Alabama is here. So, you get taxed just because you got a university sitting there, regardless of what you do. But there's also several other small colleges. So, smaller universities around. There's Sheldon, there's Stillman, right here as well. So I think you combine those two things together and it leads to a disproportionately high rate for Ubers and Lyfts.
So my mind goes to a place where I try to solve problems, even though I might not have all the answers. But while you were talking, my solution was if there isn't a lot of Uber drivers, and you did use it a time or two or go out of your way to use it a couple of times to do something, whatever that might be, and you figure that out, then you can start building those relationship with the Uber drivers and see how on time they are, and maybe talk to them about, "Hey, are you interested in driving for me?" and experiment. You already know that potentially that driver's not gonna work out for you, but it's another pool of people you might not be talking to on a regular basis.
This is
The
true.
oth the other thought was, can you build relationships with cleaning crews in buildings that have limited hours?
Ah, I see where you're going. Okay.
'Cause then your hours to be able to fill the machines become more flexible, possibly.
Yeah. Okay. That's a that I will definitely look into. Um, and I've been thinking about the Uber thing, so I will find I mean, I have reasons. I'll find a reason to take some Ubers in cases where I normally would just pay somebody else $5 or something in gas to take me somewhere. Just to, because again, something's got to give, right? I can't
Yeah.
keep going at the rate that I'm going because, like I said, it is negatively impacting a ton of stuff. Um, I like the cleaning crew idea though. That might be a, aha.
Yeah, see? Sometimes you just need to talk problems through. Welcome to Technically Working. Technicallyworking.show gets you to the podcast or Pinecast page, I think.
Yeah, it gets you to the podcast page. See, that's another thing. We don't have a website. Why don't we have a website? I ain't had time to do it. Uh, Now, the last thing I want to throw in here is because I think people should be thinking about this, and it is something I'm thinking about, and I am open to feedback about potential solutions. I have been extremely tired for like the past year, like unacceptably exhausted. Tired is not the right way to put it. I've been suffering from what I feel like to me is extreme exhaustion for over a year. And there are spells where it's not such a thing, and I'm fine. But most days it's like, boom. Like honestly, right now, if I didn't have to record, I would really want to be asleep.
Mm,
But not because I'm that type. I'm not really the type of person that likes to take naps or sleep. But like I find myself having to take naps sometimes. Um, and either exhaustion or very low energy levels and an inability to focus a lot of times, which, means I'm not doing things that I could be doing or should be doing at different times. Like yesterday, for example, I think I came out here. So for everybody listening, just so you get the context of this, we're recording on Sunday. Oh, didn't even mention this. So Mike completely beat my record uh, of like, hey, can we record later? So now, to be fair, Mike tried to send this message earlier, but he was in a spot where he didn't have good cell service. So the iMessage didn't come through to me until like 5 minutes till 9 my time. And
right.
had just gotten in Zoom. And then I get a message. I was like, oh, Mike's probably telling me he's late because I noticed the Zoom room isn't open. And I was like, let me go look at this message that Mike sent. Just in case he said like 10 minutes or something, I can get up and go, grab something to drink. Uh, Mike's like, oh, can we record an hour later or tomorrow? I was like, ha, 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 ha.
I think you got that like 54-ish, and you joined the
Yeah.
Zoom room at 52.
Yeah. So I was already in Zoom. It's like, wow, Mike really pushed. But I sat out here and, I was prepared to have this whole, let's pull back the curtain, talk about like, from my perspective, how I've been catastrophically failing to run a couple of businesses and be active in a third. Um, Conversation. I was like, well, let me talk some of this out so I can kind of condense it. Otherwise, I'll ramble a lot anyway. Did that, did a little typing on some stuff, took a few notes, looked at a couple of documents. I went in the house and I swear to God, it's like somebody hit me in the back of the head with a tired board. It's like, wham. It's like, okay, I got to go to sleep because I'm not going to be productive at doing anything else. And that's what I did. I went to sleep.
Mhm.
I didn't wake up till this morning. Like, it wasn't like I went to sleep for a couple of hours and then I woke up and couldn't get back. It's like, no, wham. I don't even think I got up to go to the bathroom. Like, I was out until this morning. That is very unusual for me. But this has been a thing that's been happening for over a year because I started fighting against this. And it was a little easier to fight against before I went to Gentry because I was home, and when I was up, I could be productive, and then I would just take a nap in the middle of the day is actually what I was doing. I'd get up and do some more work, and things balanced out, and people that really didn't know that I was, struggling with this, and I kind of shoved it aside, like, okay, well, maybe I'm just getting old. I joke about getting old, but seriously, I don't think this is an age thing. I don't know what it is. And that's why I said I'm open to recommendations. Now, I'm not going to take some crazy concoction. I'm not a big medicine taker. I am looking at options for maybe some vitamins that might help or something like that, but I'm not looking to supplement it by like starting to drink Red Bull or something like that. That's not a solution. It's not a sustainable solution. But it is becoming a problem. And the reason I wanted to address this, again, not blaming my problems on that, but it is a factor. Because we've talked about on the show before, just taking care of your health, like having a healthy balance of work and life, but also, having a healthy balance when it comes to taking care of yourself. From the chair you sit in to, standing up, having a standing desk, different things like that. So this is a thing that you should pay attention to. Anybody should pay attention to. If your body's recovery or your exhaustion or energy levels are well off what you're used to them being, like, figure it out. And I don't have an answer yet. I'm still trying to figure it out. Uh, and when I find a solution, I'll tell people about it. Not saying it's going to work for everybody, but pay attention to those things and don't just ignore them, because I did ignore this for quite some time. I wrote
Mhm.
it off to, just dumb crap for a while, like basically ignoring it. Like, oh, well, I did stay up pretty late last night doing X, Y, Z. And, it's just going to take me a little while to recover from pulling an all-nighter and yada, yada, yada. But no, it's not that. I've not managed to bounce back from that as well as I would. And that's been a hard mental thing for me to deal with, because I'm used to physically being fairly fit. Like, I don't get sick a lot. And over the years that Mike's known me, he probably doesn't remember, but he probably, if he really thought about it, could count the number of times I actually been like, hey man, I'm too sick to do X, Y, Z.
Mhm.
Like, I'm sick. It's not a normal thing for me.
Right.
I've done shows where I was a little stuffed up. We both done shows where we were a little off, but a little sick or something. But I'm not oh, it's flu season, so I'm going to be sick. Usually I make it through flu season without, it touching me directly. I may have a year out of 5 or 6. Typically, it's been my life average of, oh, the flu knocks me down for like 2 days. Then I'm back up and everything's good. So there's that aspect of it. But the main thing for me is just trying to get it figured out. Now, how do I intend on addressing the solution? I'm just continuing to push and I have an interview. I'm going to actually sit down, and I've been bouncing back and forth with GPT, trying to put together a good questionnaire by identifying the things that I have noticed. And some of this is just learning pains for me, but things that I have noticed, like, I do require this level of reading skill. I require this level of observation. I need someone that is goal oriented. Things like that, and trying to put together a good questionnaire, because I'm going to have to start interviewing more people, and that absolutely needs to be systemized. It can't be something I can do off the top of my head. Some other things that I am currently doing as well is, doing as much work as I possibly can. I'm relying very heavily, more so than I thought I would be in the beginning, but and as slow as it can be, I'm relying a lot on seeing AI and IRA and Be My Eyes to get, stuff identified, packed up, etc. Because I got to get it done, and I can't wait for somebody to show up to help with those visual things. So there's a lot of that happening. I still have to deal with the backlog of work that I need to get to, but that'll get done. Like, I'm not giving up, but it has been it's been a bit of a struggle. And it's not, again, from my perspective, it's not because I've been overwhelmed. There's been some bad decisions I've made. There's been some things I had to learn because I didn't realize I didn't know them, such as hiring people and managing people and having to micromanage people. I'm not good at micromanaging because I don't like to be micromanaged. Uh, but Mike's giving me a good idea, which is, let's talk to these cleaning crews. We ain't gonna say no more about that. So if you missed that part of the show, you just missed it. That might not be 100% legit, but hey, you can let me in and do this machine, and I'm out of here. All right, cool. So, like that idea.
Or can I
And I
pay?
will,
Can I outsource your cleaning crew too?
look, how about I just take over your whole cleaning crew, and then, like, we can
There
find
you
us some more
go.
buildings to clean,
See,
right?
see, it's a service you can provide.
I mean, listen, that to me is a thing that BEP programs across the country should be looking at is other things besides just food service of trying to get vendors into.
Mhm.
Because I'm gonna be honest, food service is getting hard. Like it's been hard. It's never been easy, but it is getting tougher across the board.
And as
Uh,
someone who does laundry for the colleges.
yeah, see, they don't have that here. They used to have it in Georgia. I'm not sure if they're still doing it in Georgia. I feel like they used to have it here, but I know they don't currently do that now. That's another space that they could be getting into to provide more opportunities. But
And
go ahead.
I was gonna say, and the other one that I know people are looking into is being able to bid on being the vendor who's providing VoIP or communication services to the prisons. So the video calling and the phone calls.
Huh. Okay. See, that kind of stuff is interesting, and it's ways to expand the program and get more people into it, first of all, but also allow a person to maybe pursue something that they're better suited for. I'm okay with this vending machine, crap. It's all right. I knew that going into it, like this is not going to be the easiest thing in the world to do. But really, to me, at the end of the day, it kind of comes down to inventory management and getting out and getting stuff done. But one thing I didn't want to do, because I don't think I'm cut out for it, is like operating an actual snack bar where I'm in there from like 8 to 4 or 6 to 3 or something like that. I'm stuck in the same place all day cooking people's food. I don't want to do that. Not at all. But I think they do need to expand out into doing more stuff that will benefit a lot of places. Um, I don't know what to do about the hiring pool because I have realized from talking to, and I've interviewed, quite a few people, that they just never got past that initial interview because of some weirdness. They can't work these hours or, they got a record. So like, ain't no point in me hiring you. You got a record because it means you're not going to pass background checks for places that need background checks. Like, that's a waste of my time. I don't have time for it. Or people with weird hangups about getting paid. Uh, and not people that are on Social Security, so they're like overly, concerned about, oh, they're going to cut my check or whatever. Because we know how to work around that. We can finesse that. I'm a professional. We can deal with that. It's like, oh no, you just ain't working and you're looking for a job, but you want to get paid under the table. How does that benefit me? That doesn't benefit me at all. That causes me
Mhm.
problems, right? And the problem that causes me, like, well, one, I can't write that off. So that's money that's just disappearing out of my pocket and out of my bank account that I cannot write off as payroll because you're not being payrolled.
Mhm.
That creates problems if there's ever an accident on the job because, hey, there's no insurance or workman's comp to cover you because, hey, you're technically not here as an employee. And so it doesn't offer them protections. It doesn't offer me protection. And it's a bad way of handling business. My advice to anybody that is running a business, whether they're doing BEP or anything else, figure out, what your state rules are and follow those for sure. But at minimum, 1099 a person, right? Like if they're going to be a constant worker for you up under any circumstances, at minimum, you should 1099 them, which means they're hired as a contractor. If they're going to be more of an employee in a full-time or part-time capacity, it's worth doing the payroll because, software like Patriot and Gusto will handle, their hours and taking taxes out and all of that stuff. And it keeps you on the legitimate side of the IRS. So they're not beating down your door in a couple of years like, hey, so there's a whole bunch of taxes that you ain't paid. And interest start accruing on the day that you were late. So guess what?
Mhm.
You owe us
Mhm.
$10,000, and with the interest added up, it's now $45,000. And you're like, what the? And yes, I am exaggerating, but probably by not that much. But
By
the
that,
worst,
probably not.
but the worst thing that happens in that situation, which people don't think about, is the IRS is in your pocket, but then they're gonna, reach out to the state like, hey, this person hadn't been paying us federal
You should recheck your
employment
records.
taxes. You should check your records to make sure they've been paying their state employment taxes. It's like, oh man, guess what? You no longer have a business at that point. Right, that's pretty much true because I don't have enough, what do they call it, disposable income to be like, oh, sure, I could just weather this storm and keep moving and build it back up. No, I'm
Mhm.
pretty much done. At that point, the best move to make is declare bankruptcy and move to Alaska. But anyway, that's a little bit of that because here at like I like the way Mike worked that in. That was real great, man. I was like, bro, welcome to technically working. It's like we rehearsed it, except we really didn't. I promise you, we didn't. But welcome to technically working. This is a show where we talk about a whole lot of things, and we always try to be transparent. There may be things that we don't tell you because it simply ain't your business, but we ain't gonna lie to you. That's one thing.
You should go check out the technicallyworking.show page. And maybe we should, now that GPT has increased its abilities and there's more tools out there, we should rework that description, I think.
Yeah, we should fix that description. For sure. Another thing we should fix is this B.
Yeah. How is B working for you? Because you got yours, what, Tuesday?
Yeah, I think it was Tuesday, Monday, Tuesday,
Yeah.
something like that.
I
So
still have not put mine back on my wrist this week, although I am thinking about it again.
So first off, I've almost lost the damn thing 3 times.
Okay.
I literally thought I lost it on the campus of the university the other day because like I had it on and then I didn't have it on. And I was like, I have no idea where it is, but I'm not about to ride back and backtrack everywhere that I just been to see if I find it. Because I got other buildings to get to in here before I can't get into them. And then I want to go home because yeah, I'm working. Turns out it fell off on the back of the van. So when I opened the back door, stopped at a spot to pack up, load up the crates to take in there and fill their machines. Oh, there it is in the back of the van. Oh, okay, well, good deal. Because I literally was not going to go look for it.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. The little band comes off really easily, at least for me. Not sure it's meant for active people. Might be a thing. Like, I don't know. It kind of feels like the Apple Watch band. Like the material feels very much like the default comes in the box Apple Watch band. But does not snap in as securely as the Apple Watch band.
No.
So yeah, they want to work on that. I mean, granted, their whole device costs as much as one of those Apple bands. So there's that to be said for it, but look, it's not disposable. My thoughts on it is I'm really so I pushed past my partially because at one point I forgot about it anyway. But I decided, you know what, I'm gonna stick it out because I'm not doing anything or saying anything that is overly sensitive that nobody can hear. So whether it's the Chinese, the Russians, or the American government, like I don't care. It's not too much going on right now. This ain't gonna continue, but this week, yeah, we'll see how it goes. So I did keep it on for the whole week. Except when I lost it. I would say the first thing about it is I absolutely agree that if it had a Taptic engine in it, it would be much better. Because there are times, so for example, the conversation that we had earlier today, and I was like, well, if the B was listening, then I'll know exactly some of the topics that we're going to talk about on the show. Guess what, Mike? I don't know any of those topics because the thing was muted. I don't know why it was muted. It should not have been muted, but it was muted. So yeah, that's awesome. Didn't get any of that conversation, but the summaries are a little goofy. I wish there were a way to, and this is something that could be working on, but the general overall premise is, yes, I think a device of this sort would be useful with some tweaks and some refinements to the software and the hardware. This would serve a purpose that I think would be good. The B itself, its agent is a little dumb. Its summaries are a little overly, they really want your summaries to be optimistic, even if you're talking about stuff that isn't optimistic, but they still try to find a twist to make it sound like the day overall was optimistic.
Yeah. Like it's your perk me up buddy that's with you,
yeah,
and when you look at things,
what I need. Like,
good.
And there's too much of that crap in AI as it is. Like, I don't need the over perkiness, right? Just tell me, give me the facts, right? My summary of my day is this, like, Damashe discussed logistics and the need to retrain some people and yada, 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 whatever it said, right? Okay, cool. I don't need you to try to figure out how to put a positive spin on that, right? I'm not, and I know it's not designed just for me, it's designed generally, but I feel what the point I'm trying to get to there is there should be some ways to frame the, to prompt it or to give it a prompt to say, hey, don't do this, or this is how I want my summaries to be presented to me of conversations. And there's none of that level of control currently with it. So that to me is a refinement that needs to happen. As we discussed in your case when you talked about it, I think a Taptic engine could be something very beneficial. Obviously, I wouldn't make it into this particular version of the software, but an alternative to is a suggestion that you made, which is have it give feedback on the phone so I know when I press a button, like what is done or what I have done. All right, if I just press it and you pop up a notification that says B is muted, okay, cool.
Mhm.
Or B is unmuted, which would be a great accessibility boon because I do think the device has some potential, especially at the current price point. And if it remains at that price point, that it could be useful. There are reminders that it has picked up or to-dos that it has picked up that legitimately are valid. Some of them not so much. I'm not even sure what the hell that was about. But there are some where like I went back and looked through the list and like, oh yeah, I did talk about that with somebody and I do need to do that thing or look into that. And for those, I've just copied, forefinger or whatever the gesture is. Copied that last spoken phrase and then went and pasted it into the Todoist. I'm still a little nervous because I don't know where the data is actually being processed.
Mhm. Mhm.
Uh, it could be being processed in the app. It could be being processed on somebody else's server. I don't know. I have not emailed them yet. I am going to email them, but I think I told you, I was like, I want to do this episode where we kind of discuss it and get my thoughts because one, I won't have to try to regurgitate all that in the email, and two, I can point them to, may gain some new listeners just by sharing the episodes.
And number
Here's where
3,
we
we
talked
talked.
about your product,
Yeah.
but also, it's a pretty good show. You should check it out. It's technicallyworking.show. Uh, Become a tip jar subscriber. Uh,
I think the form factor for the technology could be what it ultimately is or something similar to that. Um, I'm completely understanding of your losing it. I don't know that the clip would make much of a difference. It would be interesting to see if anyone comes out with some accessories for it, because 3D printing how it is nowadays. Hint, hint, people who have 3D printers, could you come up with something that's a little more secure for it?
I'm gonna give I'm gonna interrupt it because people don't so if you have an Apple Watch, this will be really easy to understand. If you don't have an Apple Watch, I'm
Mm,
sorry, I'll do my best to explain how this band is. But for Apple Watch people, that default kind of rubbery flash alarm, I think is what they call it, whatever it is, band that you get with Apple. Think about that band, but it's flipped inside out. So what would be up against your wrist on the Apple Watch band is facing out. So
mhm.
it literally just takes a pull on that on the little side of it and it pops loose and then it's gone. Whereas with the Apple Watch, the actual securing mechanism is inside your arm, so it is extraordinarily difficult, if not nearly impossible, to pull that out of its hole without it being intentional. If you're not an Apple Watch user at all, or you just you're fancy and you never look at those default bands because you always buy your own custom band or whatever. Uh, it's just simply a little,
Peg.
what do you call this? It's a peg that goes in a hole.
Yep.
But instead of the peg going in the hole from the inside so that the part that you have to separate to get the peg out of the hole is tucked into your wrist, it's facing out, right? It's like they made the band inside out.
Yeah.
So fix that. Like that's one piece of feedback I can give them right now that will make it a much more secure device. At $49 for some people, it may be a disposable thing.
Mhm.
I don't care if it's only $10. I'm not going to keep spending $10 or $49
Yep.
to replace it because I lost it. That is a very simple fix, and it really does look like they. I mean, for all I know, it could have been 3D printed, but it looks like they just did it inside out.
Hmm.
To the point I tried to flip mine inside out to see
I
if
was
that
gonna
would.
ask if you did that. So
I
you did
tried it,
try that. Okay.
I,
Okay.
but the way the band curves down from the device where it holds it and curves down
Yeah.
around your wrist, like yeah, that's very rigid. So that part doesn't lend itself to be flipped inside out. But yeah, I did try it.
But yeah, I'm curious to play with it a little bit more. I need to, if I'm going to use it effectively in meetings, because I had a pretty good meeting last week with a client. And of course, I was taking notes, but I was sitting there thinking as we were doing it, this would be a perfect opportunity for the B to come back to me and say, you said you would do this, this, and this, and then I can prioritize those. Listener of the show, Taylor, said, because she got the B as well, that she has observed that they have added reminder support in iOS. Have you seen that?
I haven't, but I haven't poked through it recently. It probably was an app update that I haven't done either. So
Okay.
I
Yeah,
will check
probably.
into
I'm
that
like,
before I stop
that's
working.
interesting. I wonder if they're gonna add support, because if they could put my reminders into Todoist, like, that would be
I mean, just
pretty
give me a share
magical.
button, right? Like, I mean, you give me a share option and just bring up the standard share sheet would resolve that for me. Cause yeah,
Yeah,
to do is where I need my stuff to go.
yeah. So, I don't know. We'll observe where it goes if we use how things go. I have one sitting on my desk. I'm gonna poke at mine and probably play with it again, but I want some of that feedback that you were just talking about with it. And honestly, I want to go in and change it, because remember, I think it was a double click of the button, and that would process. Well, I found that you could choose set it to process conversation, but for me, it was fact check. Do you know if we ever figured out what it's fact checking?
Nope. Because I
Okay.
switched it to process conversation and yeah,
I think
that
that's what I wanna try to do, is, do process conversation, and then see, because that's how I intended that it was gonna be working, and I couldn't figure out why it kept saying, "No factual information found," or something like that. I'm like, "Well, I don't okay, whatever, I guess that's it's confirmation, maybe it's in beta, maybe the conversation didn't actually happen," and then I realized that I wasn't on the right setting. So I wonder if I change that setting, if that changes my experience that I get with the bee as well. And then maybe if I'm pressing, I don't know. Does yours make a little pop sound when you process the conversation, or does it say anything to you?
so hold on, let me do that now. So the app makes a sound on the phone. So my
Okay.
phone did just make a little popping noise. And if you have any earbuds, you'll hear that. And that's why I think giving some sort of auditory feedback or something is not impossible to let me know whether or not it's muted or unmuted, right?
Yeah, just use the iOS mute and unmute sounds. Like, they have
I don't know.
system-wide sounds that
Mm,
you
Yeah,
get when you're
they
in
could do
Zoom,
that.
for example.
Yeah, I could do that. That would work for
I'd
sure.
I'd be happy with that.
Pressing and holding the button and trying to have a conversation with their AI buzz, which is what they call it, which is yeah. See again, like that sort of stuff, like that
You
has
can
to stop.
change that name.
Yeah, I know, I did.
Okay.
I changed mine to Joe. I think.
I'll
But it's because I
change mine to
chose
Jay.
Joanne as the voice. Uh, they do have a lot of really good voices. For you to pick from for your AI assistant's voice. We'll
Okay.
give them that. But it's probably all just 11 Labs crap they pulled anyway. Who
Yep.
knows? Uh, well, cool. Because there's some of those voices I was like, hey, I would use that one for uh,
Maybe some of these
uh,
projects we're working on, we should be looking at integrating 11 Labs API and not
uh-huh,
OpenAI's API, because OpenAI
uh-huh.
gives you 6 voices, and eventually oh, they used OpenAI to generate that audio. I haven't heard much of that around in the wild public yet, but I'm sure I will.
Yeah, well, their API restrictions are sometimes kind of weird too. You can do this with it, but you don't have the ability to do that. You need to go to that plan. Like, I'm not on that plan, not going to that plan. But yeah, 11 Labs is something I really haven't even played with at all. So if this is actually where they got their voices from, like, yeah, 11 Labs has got some really good, high quality, human sounding voices. You can kind of tell if you listen hard,
Yeah.
but at first, especially for a lot of the stuff that we're working on, like, I don't know, an IVR voice, like perfect. It is
Mhm.
way better than the crap, these billion-dollar corporations are making you crawl your way through just to get support to be like, hey, I sent your crap back to you, so stop trying to collect money on me. Uh, Comcast.
Yeah.
The other piece of feedback, well, I guess that's kind of all. I mean, again, some ability to adjust the prompt and framing of summaries and things like that would be extraordinarily beneficial, I think, for everybody across the board. Some more interaction with the device that is running on, which right now is strictly on the iPhone. So just giving me some options to bring up share sheets to do certain things would be useful as well. Now, I ignored this device when I first heard about it because I was confusing it with a different thing. But the Plod AI, I have not finished listening to the podcast that you shared with me, but the Plod AI is looking really, really interesting to me.
Have you gotten to part of the plot demo?
Yeah, I mean, I skipped directly to that chapter. Like I
Okay.
didn't,
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Gotcha.
like I am that interested. I was like, oh, there's going to be a chapter list because it's Mosin. Yep, there's a chapter list.
Yep.
All right, let me skip to the AI, the plot AI part. I did download the app because I was like, well, maybe the app will have some functionality without the device, and give me a chance to kind of take a look. So, prior to listening to the episode I was familiar with, like, okay, they basically have a Swift UI app that they wrote,
Mhm.
and they did not label all of their interface elements
Mhm. Mhm.
very well. And there's a lot of voiceover analyzing the image and guessing what it is going on. But again, they could work on that and tweak that. For people listening that are not familiar with the Plaud AI, and I'm saying Plaud, Plaud, and I think they're a Plaud.ai because everybody has to have a .ai domain now. What is what is AI actually supposed to stand for? Because most of those domains are tied to countries. Like what is that? I wonder. Mike's
I
going to
bet
ask
GPT
GPT.
knows.
I was going to say, Mike's going to ask GPT why to explain to people what Plod is. So Plod is much sort of like, I want to say much like, sort of like the B device with a few notable exceptions. So one is about $100 more expensive. And there's also a possible subscription. I think you get 300 minutes of transcription for free each month, but there's also subscriptions you can pay for to get you more transcription time, and there's plans there, and it looks like they're annual renewals, which I'm not really, well, I can't say I'm not fond of the pricing model because I haven't really dug through their pricing. On the one hand, it feels good. They're like, hey, they have a way to continue making money, so this back
Mhm.
end service will continue to work. Uh, awesome. Do I want to pay for this? I don't know. But at
Well,
least they have
that's why I jumped on the beat because I had probably literally just heard that episode, and I'm like, "Well, that's a little pricey for me right now. I don't want to spend that." And then you come on talking about this bee thing, and I go and look, and I'm like, "Oh, it's only $49. Let's check
and
this
there's
out."
no
And then,
subscription there. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's get this.
yeah,
Um, Here's why I think both of those, and I don't know for certain that Plod doesn't allow this, but I do know they do tell you what they're using, which is something that B is not telling you right now.
mhm,
But they're using Claude 3.5 Sonnet, which makes sense because their name is Plod. So, it rhymes with Claude. But they're also using O1 from GPT. Now, they do say that, hey, you can use this model or that model or better models, as they come out in future, which is good, right? Unless you select what's on the back. Here's what I would like to possibly have. And actually, I think both companies, Plod and B, could benefit maybe, especially B, because I don't see that they necessarily have a model here for processing. Allow me to go in and connect and look, Claude, Sonnet, and ChatGPT are fine, right? I pay for these services. Why not let me, I don't know how Claude works actually with their API, but let's take GPT because I know how their API works. You don't even have to be a cheap GPT Plus subscriber. You just go set up your API account and add money to your account and grab your key. And the reason I know that they're completely separate from each other is because I let all my credit get spent up on, I think I put like $5 or something on it, but I spent up to $5 eventually. And the API part of my OpenAI account, and I couldn't use the little image recognition shortcut
mm,
that our pal from over at Shortcut Jar made.
right,
But I was still using GPT Plus just fine. I was like, oh, I didn't realize those two things were actually separate. So I would
yep,
have put some money on there. But what I'm trying to get to is it would be awesome if I could just use my own API key for the processing, right? Keep your framing or your prompt. What are they? Is that still called a prompt? Like when
prompt
they
engineers are the people who craft those, and yes, they're so called prompts.
Okay, so keep your prompts in place, if that helps, but let me use my own API key so I don't have to pay you money directly, would be awesome. Probably not a whole lot of benefit to them. I think B could benefit from this because you could start to severely restrict, unless they're just using, they literally could just have dropped like some local model into their
Mm,
app. I should see how big their app is. That could be one idea, or one insight into what they're possibly doing. Because they could have just
Right.
dropped the freaking model and whisper the small model, which would explain some of the very bad transcriptions they've got, and a small local Olama model in here into their app. Like that could be what I doubt that's what they're doing, but that could be what they're doing. But plot is interesting to me because number one, it is not always listening. It clearly, distinctively has activation and deactivation. And hey, they have vibration. So you press the button down apparently, and it vibrates, and oh, now you know it's recording you. And then you press it again, and it double vibrates, and you know it's not recording you anymore. That's awesome. I like that. It's like they took Mike's idea right out of his head before he even had it. The other thing is that so Plod has two different devices actually. There's the Plod pen or note pen or whatever they call it. We'll say pen because that's in the name of it. And that's kind of, to me, that sounds very much like the B device almost. Like, the way, the kind of the form factor, because you can wear it on a
Mhm.
band or you can put it on a clip or there's a lanyard attachment apparently. Uh, but it sounds very much like the B device's form factor is their pen thing. And then they have the Plod Note, which apparently is a credit card size thing that can attach to your phone with MagSafe. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Uh,
Talking
I
about
think
losing things.
you're right. I was like, I would either lose that or there's some extra to be on my phone. Like I'm not sure that's the way to go. Also, if I got to pull out my phone to use it like that, just automatically made it less useful. I think the pen would be a thing that I would go for. But I like it because one, you have more control, so it's not constantly listening. But when I need to take a note or need to record a conversation, it is there for that. It has onboard storage. Another thing I think I like more about it too is one because I'm getting a lot more details about how the thing actually works. So I know that it has 64 gigabytes of storage. I know that it is using ChatGPT or Claude on the back end to process your conversations.
Mhm.
Uh, these are all things I know nothing about to be. Uh, like, are you constantly just streaming audio like a Bluetooth microphone or headset to my phone all the time? Or are you storing it and then transferring it? What are you doing? I have no idea what you're doing.
Yeah.
I don't know where you're sending it. I don't know. We will let people know because the new show, which is the old show, but the new show on Twist, Intelligent Machines, they are trying to get the B people on the show. Has this come up? As either of these devices come up? Just to give a plug to another one of our people to double tap. Has the B or the Plod device come up on double tap at all yet?
I think they have as like a quick, like, I don't think either one of them have actually gotten one of these. Because Steven was asking
Well,
some
Mickey B
questions
should
the
show
other
up
day.
on
Double
Double
tap.
Tap and talk about it.
Yeah, that might play into why I want to get this back out and play with it a little bit more. Because yeah, I'm intrigued. I keep saying I'm intrigued, but really, it's it's a fascinating topic because it's something that I feel like I've always wanted. I'm not sure if it is what I want, but I see the places it will help me in my life, and I
Well, there's
imagine
plenty
others
of
as well.
places, right? Like that's the thing.
Yep.
And I'm usually not the one that is, out for something like this, especially. It's like, what the hell is it doing? But like, I think Plod may have done it better, but B is cheaper, right? So there's that flex. But they do need to put some more information out there and turn your band inside out, for God's sake. Like, stop going around. Hold on, I should fix that because somebody's gonna complain. Hold up. Uh, Turn your band inside out. Because yeah, that's an easy fix. Like that's an easy win for you right there. But literally, but it is um the immediate thing that attracted me to the B, and now that I looked at the Plod, that attracts me to the Plod. It's like there's a device that is kind of that virtual assistant, like an assistant that I can say, take notes on this conversation, and even just providing me with a summary of things that I have said without having to get out my phone, hold my phone. Like that's the big thing. Like you could duplicate a
Yes.
lot of this with your phone. And as I was listening to the Plod, so the portion that I've gotten through of the Plod are discussion slash review by Jonathan Mosen, um, I started thinking about, okay, well, what is something I have where I could do this already? Well, obviously there's my phone and I got to pull the phone out and hold it. And that's not, always conducive, to the environment or the situation. Uh, what if I found a clip for the H1 and just
Mhm.
clipped it on? I was like, yeah, but it's a little big for one thing. And, it's going to slaughter some batteries. Is the other thing. Otherwise, it'll be off just at the moment I need to press the record button to do something right. So, no, I'm not sure that'll work. The Apple Watch, you would again kill your battery is the problem.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
it's like it's a dedicated device. And again, going back to a topic that has come up a lot on Double Tap. Sometimes having a dedicated device to do a thing and do a single thing and do it well is better than having an iPhone in your pocket that can do all the things, but it can't do any of them great, if that
Mm.
makes sense. Like the iPhone does not solve this problem. The Apple Watch cannot at this point solve this problem because, and the watch seems like the best solution, right? Like if Apple could pull this off, but frankly, the battery tech is not there for them.
Right.
You wouldn't have your watch last a whole day if it was constantly listening to you, or if you were, uh, you know, constantly using it in the way that I know I would use this, to take notes or record meetings or conversations, because they're relevant. And I want to make sure I don't miss any details, because trying to type and listen to somebody at the same time, like, yeah, I can do it. I know how to do it. I've been doing it for years, but it's irritating.
It is.
It's better to be engaged fully in the conversation than to be trying to type and have your fingers do what they're supposed to do and listening to this person over there and then realizing that you just misspelled, frankly, about 7 different times. So yeah, let's like, I like the ideas of it. B, I'm a little leery. I feel like maybe a round two with them, like a version two or V 1.1 with some refinements could be better. I think they would be, I don't know enough about their business, but I think B specifically could really be served by one, making some hardware tweaks. Because I would like the little Taptic engine. I think they should be inexpensive enough that you can, get that in there. Fix your band, but also open up the app to allow for, hey, if you have a GPT API key or a Claude API key, or well, DeepSeek wouldn't have an API key. Well, yes, it would if you run your own model. Anyway, if you drop in your own API key, you can get even better quality or whatever,
Mhm.
transcriptions back out of here or something. That would be a way to go. I would love for Plod to do something like that, just because I'm very interested in getting a Plod. May reach out to them like, hey, we just did a review of the B on Technically Working. You should share. We can talk, but I'm betting, huh?
I was just saying, yeah, you should. You should share the devices you make.
Yeah, but I'm wondering if maybe that's not a thing that's even on the table, because, for the first time in a long time, Mosen bought a thing, that he reviewed. Now, be fair, I don't listen to every single review that Mosen does, but I do know a lot of the ones that I have been interested in. He has been sent said piece of equipment by the company. He states that clearly, like it's never a hidden thing. But he bought this.
Yeah.
Now, maybe he bought it because he was just like, oh yeah, I want this. Or maybe he reached out and they were like, yeah, whatever, dude. Or they just didn't respond.
Because that's
But
what normally happens is people don't respond.
yeah, that is generally what happens when you reach out.
So
But yeah, the plot is interesting. So we'll see what happens. I don't know. Maybe I bought one. Maybe I'll buy one.
wearable technology is exciting again. Kind of like when phones were exciting. So I was going to ask you a question related to the H6E, but we're going on 90 minutes. So, real quick, what's your workflow process to get your H6E working on your Mac to be your audio interface?
Okay. So for you, because you're already familiar with the layout of everything.
Yep.
Spin your wheel to USB,
Okay.
hit enter. I usually hit enter again immediately on channels and turn it to multi-track instead of stereo.
Gotcha.
And then I confirm that. Let's see, what is it? Hold on. Well, I can't actually check it now because I'm
I was gonna say,
recording.
now don't break it. You hear your computer out of it though, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So once I go through and do the connection, for there's an option, and when you press it, you will figure out which one it is. I just don't
Mhm.
remember the exact name of it. But I choose power to come from USB.
Okay.
Uh,
Yep.
Unless I don't have my computer plugged in, and I know I don't have my computer plugged in, then I will let it run off batteries. I will change that to battery power. But if I have the computer plugged in, as I normally do when we're recording, I will select power over USB, so that way it's not draining my batteries when there's a perfectly good power source right there.
Mhm.
Uh, Audio interface mode or something like that, I usually select, you can pick this just based off what you're doing. Usually I have it set to, and it just defaults back to that all the time, of audio interface with with
Okay.
recording.
Yep.
And that way I can do what I did when we first started and just reach over and push that button, and I have my track.
Okay.
And then I hit connect, scroll down to connect. Now, at that point, after I've hit connect, then what I do is I bring up sound source
Mhm.
and I go over to output and change it to be the Zoom H6 driver to be my output. Generally, I don't mess with input on the computer because I'm going to have the input set in Zoom or whatever app I'm using anyway. So I don't really care that much about that. And that's it. And I'm connected. So I'm hearing the computer audio out of here.
And then you change your
And
input to the H6 as well, or are you using loopback for your inputs?
so I don't really change the input in like the system wide input at
Okay.
all. I think hold on, I will tell you what my system wide input is because I did used to have to do this. So, well, I should set to the MacBook Air microphone for some weird reason. Uh, but that's the system wide. Inside of Zoom, I have the
Yeah.
H6 selected, and I should check that box that lets me do multi-track, that allows me to pull the specific track from the H6, which in this case, if you plug it into XLR1, which is the top one on the left side,
Yep.
that is track 3.
What? Okay. Okay. So
Because
that's
remember,
good
the
to
top
know.
of it with the microphones are your track 1 and 2.
Oh. Okay, so I didn't even think about that. So I wonder if in Reaper I have to set it to number 3.
Yes.
Huh, okay. Well, I will play with that because do you have to pick number 3 when you're going through the input menu when you're configuring, like, which input has phantom power?
So the way you do that is, how
And
did
if
you
you
do
don't
that
remember,
again?
I'll play with it because I didn't even think about it being channel 3.
It's not gonna let me do it. Okay, so when you go to input settings,
Mhm.
because that's where it is, it's gonna say microphone is gonna be the first option, and
Yep.
then channel 1 is what it calls it. It's
Okay.
calling it channel 1.
Okay.
Uh, that's the one you would select and then turn phantom power on, and that button that is at the top left, up here next to the first XLR input, is how you arm and disarm that channel.
But you don't have to arm it if you're just using it in interface mode, only if you're recording on it.
Yeah, only if you're gonna use you're gonna use it to input. If you're just using it for interface mode, you don't need to arm anything. But when you're selecting the channel to pull audio from, if you connected it to your computer in multi-track mode,
Mhm.
um, you want channel 3. So always remember your top, even if there's not a microphone connected, because you just put the cap on it like I do most of the time.
Yep.
The top piece is always channel 1 and 2 from the computer side of things. It calls it just
Gotcha.
microphone, but from the computer side of things, with something like Reaper, your XLR that's at the very top on the left, is going to be channel 3. The one across from it is going to be 4, and that's going to be what is called channel 2 on the device itself.
Mhm.
The bottom one on the left is closest to your volume button is going to be channel 5 in Reaper, and the other one on the opposite side of it is channel 6 in Reaper.
Gotcha. And if
Because
you
in
just
theory, if you had your microphone, the XY microphone or a different attachment on the top in Reaper and you selected channel 1 or channels 1 and 2 as your input, that's where the audio will be coming from.
yeah. Yeah, and that makes sense when you break it down like that. So I will play with this because I was gonna do my experiment today of using the H6E in the living room. I think I told you about this. Did not work out because I couldn't get audio, and I needed to get audio recorded. So I just came out to the garage and hooked back up to the Vocaster, which has the mixer running into it. And this setup works. It's pretty much plug and play. I plug the OWC dock in on the left side of the MacBook, which has a USB A to C cable plugged into it, which goes to the Vocaster. And then I plug a USB C to C cable into the right side of the MacBook, which goes to the Charge by AT guys. And it powers the MacBook Air or MacBook Pro to get it back to full charge. But then the mixer has the group button pressed on the channels that I want to send to the Vocaster, and it's plugged into the Vocaster channel 1. And then in Zoom, I pick my virtual device, which is capturing audio from Vocaster channel 5, because that makes a lot of sense. So
Mhm.
I think I'm gonna play with this H6E now that I know the secret to get it to record, and we'll see how that works out for me. And
Yeah,
report next week.
yeah, cool deal. So Mike's gonna have his portable recording set up when he just needs to do some stuff on the fly. He won't have to go out there and freeze in the
Like CSUN.
garage. Yeah, or CSUN. Well, you'll probably, make sure you take your XY mic
Yes.
attachment.
Yes. I should
with
buy
you.
the furry muff or furry whatever windscreen.
Yeah, I should see about us putting an order in maybe this week for some of those accessory kits for the H4 and for the H6. And your friend, because I don't know that guy now, was like, oh, maybe we should order that H2 thing too. Like, man, what are you doing? But yeah, we should probably pick up a few of those accessory packs, just because it gives you a carry case too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank everybody for listening. This has been Technically Working episode 96. I feel like I said that last week, so now I got to go check. Why is FaceTime over?
Oh, while you're going to check, I did chat GPT it, and I only saw this because I jumped back over to Safari to go check to see what episode it was. And AI is Anguilla is the country code, but it's been marketed as AI for tech startups.
Yeah, just still hoping Google comes through and saves the IO domain. Otherwise, I'm going to be very, 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 very sad. Because it means I would have paid a lot of money for a domain that I don't own anymore. Oh, man, I can't spell.
Yep, we're on 96.
Oh, okay, I just got there. Yeah, it took me a minute because I spelled technically wrong. So I ended up we can't find this server. All right, so I don't need to actually go fix that. Thank you for listening. This has been Technically Working episode 96. You can send us email feedback at technicallyworking.show. You can use the hashtag on Mastodon, hashtag technically working, and we appreciate it if you capitalize the T and the W. You can follow him on Mastodon. He's Payon, Payown, at dragonscave.space. That's dragonscave.space. I am Damashe on Mastodon, Damashe at technically.social.
I do like that.
And my new avatar is a porcupine with a keyboard is coming soon.
I thought it was a panda.
Well, see, pandas look all friendly and nice and cuddly, and most people don't know that they'll rip your face off, but you stay away from porcupine, so I'll be a porcupine.
Yeah, there you go.